in a week's time, when you are listening to this, hope maybe you're listening to this before, because Noah pointed out to me that we do release our episodes at midnight. But unless you're a freak listening to this at midnight, when you're listening to this, I will probably be on my way to get a tattoo based on the movie Malignant. Is this a bad decision? No,
Yes.
it's a great decision.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's the
sure.
best decision ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great
Malignant.
decision.
Gabriel
Thanks, yeah.
Malignant, right on the
Gabriel
back of Nina's
Malignant.
head.
Yeah, no, like it's a tramp stamp.
Peeking out of your butt crack.
Yeah.
Wait, where are you getting it?
Oh, I'm getting it on my upper arm. I only have one tattoo right now. It's like a crow on my shoulder, and then I'm gonna like have it be right under the crow, diagonal. It's gonna be a dagger. It's gonna be Gabriel's dagger with his hand holding it. And it's gonna say excellence on the little banner because Gabe's hand covers up the part of the dagger that says excellence. And I think it's a cool thing and an important thing to include. So
Are you like, because you've only got that one tattoo and now you're getting a second tattoo right under it. Are you working your way to a sleeve?
Yes, that is the idea. The idea is to do like an American traditional style only like sleeve just on my left arm. I don't know what I'll do with the rest of my body. But that's as much as I planned.
A anime girl anime girl sleeve on the other side.
Oh, the two genders.
The two genders, yes.
American traditional and anime girls. Funnily enough, both styles that the one artist I really like does very well, but they're actually going to doing only American and Japanese traditional styles. So no more anime from them.
Understandable.
This is an outrage.
Yeah, I'll tell them you said that when I see them.
Yeah.
I'll be like, Jess, what the fuck?
How dare he become a normie?
They.
How dare they become a normie?
Emma, anti-ally. Well documented.
No, I'm really excited.
At least I'll watch shows with gay people in them, Noah.
It's not the gay people. I just hate pirates.
Pirates are gay people. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Casual Obsession, the horror book podcast where we talk about horror books. With me, as always, is not Jeff, who isn't here.
The quitter, indeed.
The quitter, indeed. He didn't quit the podcast, but he did quit our hearts. He can't be here today. So it is my friends.
Page Turnin Noah.
Page Turnin Noah. Yeah.
I'm sorry that you can't think of a better nickname than that.
No, I don't need a better nickname. I'm published author. Carolina, also here, also known as Nina.
Nice. Perfect. Beautiful.
Way to flex on everyone.
And I'm Emma the Tran. So this week we are talking about the book Revalator by the author Daryl Gregory. Good old Daryl.
He has an excellent Twitter account, I have found.
Oh, does he actually?
I am a fan of his Twitter. He's got big dad energy. He does interact with people who read his books. So if by the off chance he listens to this episode, hi Daryl. I really like your book.
What's up, Daryl?
It was a lot of fun.
It was a good book. I mean, like, officially, I can't say yet. Not for another.
We can't give out our ratings too early on. We gotta hold you in suspense.
Absolutely. This book came out in 2021, and as per usual, I'm just gonna read kind of the like synopsis that's normally on the back of the book, rather than go into like a whole thing.
It's just easier that way.
Yeah. So, in 1933, 9-year-old Stella is left in the care of her grandmother, Maudie, in the backwoods of Tennessee. These remote hills of the Smoky Mountains are home to dangerous secrets, and soon after she arrives, Stella wanders into a dark cavern where she encounters the family's personal god, an entity known as the Ghost Daddy. Years later, after a tragic incident that caused her to flee, Stella, now a professional bootlegger, returns for Maudie's funeral and to check on the mysterious 10-year-old girl named Sunny that Maudie adopted. Sunny appears innocent enough, but she is more powerful than Stella could imagine, and she's a direct link to Stella's buried past and her family's destructive faith. Haunting and wholly engrossing, summoning mesmerizing voices and giving shape to the dark, Revelator is a Southern Gothic tale for the ages.
I would like to really quick challenge something said in this synopsis. Does Sunny seem innocent enough? She comes off real strong right from the get-go. I love that kid, but like immediate gremlin.
She's a powerhouse, absolutely.
I'd like to challenge something Nina said. Nina mentioned that Daryl Gregory, hi Daryl, was on Twitter. Nina neglected to mention that he also uses horror content creator font in his name.
He does,
which did
yes.
surprise me.
He uses like the Courier New.
It's like that typewriter looking shit.
Font.
That's cool. Yeah, I like
Very
it.
cool.
Sorry, I just had to cut him with that.
She was like really shy and stuff at first, so maybe that's the innocence or whatever.
Yeah.
She was shy
all shy people are innocent, as we know.
We do know this. It's
true.
A fact.
But Nina, what was the critical reception of this book?
Yeah, as far as critical reception goes, I'm relying solely on Goodreads for this one. I could pull up Amazon, but I don't want to. It has a 3.98 on Goodreads. I did read some of the reviews. I think the rating should be a little higher personally, but this is like thousands of people weighing in on this.
Is this out of 5?
Out of 5.
Oh, thank the Lord. Yeah. I was not sure whether I was going to be like angry at that number or like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same rating scale that we use, like how many books out of 5, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I did read a few of the reviews just to see like why people were rating it this way. And one consensus that I did see that I don't necessarily fully agree with is that this book is not that scary and not that like horrific. Like I see where they're coming from. I don't know if that would cause me to rate the book lower if a book is not scary to me personally. I think it was like a really well written, like fun book with characters that I really enjoyed. So I don't know if it just not scaring me would make me go 3 stars.
See, here's I think one of the things. It's like there's different like facets of horror, right?
Yeah.
Like sure, there was no one with a bloody cleaver walking around in this book. You know, no one's like eating people or anything weird like that. But like it's very much in like the cosmic horror zone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There were 3 separate reveals that like my stomach sank when I read them, and I like had to take a second, you know, where I was like, oh gosh, it recontextualized a lot of the book, and I'm gonna have to reread it again, knowing what I know by the end, because I'm interested to see what I overlooked or didn't have the right context for.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And I mean, it's described as like gothic. And from what I understand of the gothic subgenre of horror, it's not supposed to be like this like super like bloody grotesque thing. It's kind of like a more beautiful horror. And I think that makes sense for this, absolutely.
I definitely felt that way.
100%.
Yeah. But, I mean, when we're talking about ratings, well, for one, I'm curious, Nina Wolverina, are there any reviews that stuck out to you that you would like to read?
Let me see. Let me scroll through really quick.
This is a lot weaker of Nina's critical corner than we usually get. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, normally you have them ready. You know,
so this is the one that I kind of was talking about that I don't fully agree with. It's a 3-star review, but it does speak to something that I think we can relate to in the first paragraph. This person on Goodreads says, I'll be totally honest. The reason I requested to be an ARC reader, which means you review it before it's put out, or you get a copy of the book for the review.
Mhm.
The reason I requested to be an ARC of this book is because I read the synopsis and Ghost Daddy made me fall over laughing. So obviously I had to find this.
Absolutely, that's why we read it as well.
That is why we read it as well.
Indeed.
When it came down to it, I was intrigued by the name Ghost Daddy. But this person says that their only real complaint was that the book wasn't that scary. It may be categorized as horror, but it was super tame. Interesting read, not scary at all. Decent enough read, but not unique or entertaining enough for me to want to give it a higher rating. That is a really harsh review, and I think also really repetitive phrasing of the review.
I'd like to be an ARC reader of this man's reviews because I feel like
it's not a man, but yes.
Okay, of this woman's reviews.
You are correct.
Because I feel like some constructive criticism maybe before these reviews drop. Maybe a beta reader of the reviews.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's there are a lot of high reviews for it, and my review is going to be higher too. I feel like it's mean to read like a low star review for this, but I did think they did immediately pick up on the one thing we picked up, which is the name of the entity in this book, Ghost Daddy.
It's very good.
It's very good.
It is a name and a half.
I wasn't sure what like book I wanted to pick for my like turn this cycle, and so I picked like 5, I think, and kind of posted the synopsises in our Discord, and asked the other hosts like if there are any ones in particular that they were interested in. I think it was Nina that latched on to like Ghost Daddy. Obviously, we have to read it.
Honestly, the best part of that was when Jeff picked up on that too. I had not read any of the blurbs thoroughly enough to have seen the word Ghost Daddy anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just hear all 3 of y'all just talking about Ghost Daddy, Ghost Daddy, Ghost Daddy. I'm like, what's the Ghost Daddy? And I'm like skimming through again, and I'm like, I still don't see it. What book is this about? And everyone's just like, Revalator?
Yeah.
The book with Ghost Daddy.
The book with Ghost Daddy in it.
I gotta say, Ghost Daddy does not disappoint.
No, not at all.
I did not think that I would enjoy the character as much as I did.
Ghost Daddy, interesting daddy.
Interesting daddy.
Honestly, I was expecting Ghost Daddy to be like goofy. Like just the name primed me to think of the thing as like take it not seriously at all, you know?
Yeah.
But I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
By the way, of course, for any new listeners of the podcast, as usual, we're going to give our private reviews, talk a little bit lighter about the plot before we get into the spoil section. So like you don't need to worry yet. We will make it very clear when we actually start like talking about like real spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
The usual.
Generally it'll be after the Emma's scary rating.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get there. But Nina, you've talked a lot about how like you would rate this like a bit higher. Like out of 5 books, what would you give this?
I would give this a solid 5. This hits all the buttons for me. You guys know what my buttons are. They're strong female characters, which this book has.
Do have that.
A couple of
honestly a bit, because I know coming into it, you and I were both a bit worried about like, okay, male author writing like young female character as like the main
I was
character.
Very worried about that.
And worried about how it would be handled.
Yeah, that's, I think the reason that, and Noah and I talked about this a bit this morning. The reason I was so worried about that is like, I've read a lot of like Stephen King, and I've read a lot of dystopians that treat women very poorly in them. And I'm so used to a lot of authors seeming to think that for something to be scary, it has to mistreat certain groups. And this book doesn't do that. And I was very pleasantly, I guess I'm sad that I have to be pleasantly surprised by what might be the bare minimum, but especially when it's set in like 1930s, 1940s, everything was handled like really well, and I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah. If you're still with us, Daryl, good job. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you,
Daryl. Noah, what did you think?
I thought that there was a lot of fun stuff going on here. I have a lot of love for weird mountain superstition stories.
Yeah.
I think that's it's neat because like a lot of stuff like when we did Dracula and stuff like that, that's like a lot of European setting, like
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of horror stuff is set in the old world of Europe, where all the superstitions are, not in good old America, where we don't believe in that silly hoo-ha anymore. Like
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you tell I'm in a 20s theme after reading the 40s book? But yeah, like I don't know, it's nice to see something that that takes place in America and doesn't exclusively revolve around the native burial ground.
Yeah.
Once again, looking at you, Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
Looking at you, Steve.
So
Stephen.
Yeah. That is something that I didn't think consciously about much, but I am glad that this kind of stayed away from just being like, ooh, like native curse something or other, or like some other, just kind of co-opting some other bit of folklore or something for this white family to go through. That was nice. I appreciated that didn't happen.
Yeah. I don't know. Like there were a couple of mentions here and there, but more in a historical sense rather than this is the core point of our plot. And I really it's nice to get away from stuff like that when talking about like American mystical horror things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
plus,
what would you give it?
Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking, and I don't know if I can swing a full 5 out of 5 right off the bat, right? Like I think
what do you mean
the book has right off the bat, like first reading, I don't think I could do that,
Okay.
Sorry, I guess I should have been a little more clear on that.
We know Noah likes to reread books, so
yeah. I don't know how you find the time.
Honestly, it's usually just like break at work and stuff like that. But the usual. I think I'm gonna give this a solid 4.25 books out of 5 books.
Yeah.
Because I really had a lot of fun with it. I love the world that Revelator lived in.
America.
Yeah. I love America.
We love America.
God bless America. Anyway, though, I really liked the little world that the Cove was, the culture that we got to peek into, but especially I was a huge fan of people who are doing some very unchristian things and then getting mad when you imply that they're not Christian. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, that was great.
As a recent exit from the church, I love shit like that. That's funny.
It's
so
great. Some of the clapbacks about religion in this.
Church. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Stella has some great lines when she visits the church that time, and she's like, "Why not this? Well, you see this. Why not this? Will you see this? Why not this? You are a petulant child. You'll learn if you keep coming here." Loved that. That was
great. You keep coming here and you don't talk or ask questions, you'll do great, kid.
I was wondering, I love the reveal that the primitive Baptist church doesn't mean that they're, well, it does mean that they're archaic, but it doesn't mean like anything other than they worship based on the oldest books that they can get their hands on, and that means that they believe that organs are actually not supposed to be in church. And I think that's funny too. Yeah. I don't know, it's a lot of great stuff.
I am curious if the primitive Baptist church is based on like some set of Baptist thought like that existed in real life, because they also were talking about the elect, which is very specifically
that's like a Calvinist thing.
That's a
Calvinist thing.
I don't know.
Primitive Baptists, also known as hardshell Baptists, foot-washing Baptists, or old school Baptists, are conservative Baptists adhering to a degree of Calvinist beliefs who coalesced out of the controversy among Baptists in the early 19th century over the appropriateness of mission boards, tract societies, and temperance societies. I don't know what that means.
Temperance is not drinking alcohol.
Oh, there we go.
Well, Stella has something to say about that.
And here in the wiki article, it says the adjective primitive in the name is used in the sense of original.
Yeah, I went to some pretty conservative Baptist churches in my youth, but none were the level that this one is. I think we had an organ at the one I went to that specifically hated me as a person, but they also did read out of hymn books, so there were hymn books, a lot of them.
All Baptist
Yeah.
churches have hymn books, Nina. That's not special.
That's not necessarily true.
Okay. You're not Baptist if you're not singing out of a hymn book.
That's what my father would say, yeah.
He's correct.
Are we Emma? I want to know your rating.
What is your rating, Emma? I've talked about primitive Baptists long enough.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed this book. It's definitely like probably one of my more favorite horror movie books that we've read in the past year. And you know, there were some things that bothered me. So the chapters kind of shift between young Stella and older Stella. Older as in like adult Stella, but she's still pretty young. And especially towards like the latter half of the book, it would kind of end the chapter on like this really interesting, cool part where I'm like, I want to know what happens next. And then you've got a chapter about like the other Stella, and you read about that, and it ends on a good point. And then it goes back to like the story that left on a big like cliffhanger, and then it's like, oh, and then it's been 2 days, and you're like, well, what happened? And you kind of have to like piece together like what happened via context clues, and it's not always like super straightforward. Which I appreciate that it doesn't like hold your hand, and it doesn't like baby you and be like you have to be told every single little thing.
It does a really nice job of assuming that you can connect dots.
Yeah.
But sometimes there is a missing dot.
My Dosh Garn natural curiosity was like, but I wanted to know what happened.
I wanted to know all of the details.
Yeah. Also, I think one of the greatest, and this isn't much of really any kind of spoiler, I don't think, but one of the greatest mysteries of the book is why the fuck is this thing called Ghost Daddy? And they never explain it. I have theories about. I have a couple theories, and we can talk about that after the break. But they never like directly say why is this thing called Ghost Daddy, and no one ever laughs at the fact that it's called Ghost Daddy.
Yeah, it's a different time. You know, Daddy had not been contextualized the way it is modernly. But that still doesn't.
But I sure read it with the modern. I'm just like,
That Ghost Daddy bod, let me tell you.
I think we could get B to draw Ghost Daddy as a breakfast cereal mascot.
No.
But you know, I'm thinking I'm gonna give it like a because it was compelling. It kept me wanting to read. And it's also a very easy read.
It is.
It's a page turner, and it doesn't like try to drown you out with like big words or anything like that to sound more sophisticated. It just flows really, really well. So I think I'm gonna give it like a 4.8 books out of 5.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice. And that gives us an average podcast rating of 4.683 repeating.
Yeah,
that's pretty solid.
Honestly,
that's pretty solid.
That's a certified fresh book.
It is safe to say that we of the podcast did enjoy Revalator.
I think
and
so,
recommend you check it out.
Yes.
Absolutely. But next, let's talk about some trigger warnings for this book. Being that it's in the early to mid 1900s, there are definitely some things that are good to talk about.
Yeah.
One of which is there's some racism, a little bit.
There do be.
Especially in the older timeline. Stella is a bootlegger for moonshine. And
I thought you meant in the timeline that was further back, and I'm like, she wasn't a bootlegger when she was younger. No, yes, yeah.
When older Stella, when she was older, she was a bootlegger, and her main business partner is a black man. And so because of that relationship, there are some kind of racial remarks thrown around by other people. The N word is never used,
but it is implied.
It's implied
at one point. But fear not, that man gets decked.
Yeah,
he does. Stella's inner monologue whenever someone's rude to her partner is very funny, and I appreciate her for that.
Yeah. Another thing is self-harm and suicide. There's some of that, as well as religious trauma. But also the self-harm and suicide are never described in like crazy detail.
That's
from
true.
what I remember.
And I liked that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely appreciated that.
Yeah. Good job, Daryl, if you're still with us.
Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks, Daryl.
Daryl, I hope you're ready for us to talk at you this entire review. It's what we usually do, but at the same time, it's like
usually we don't expect authors to actually listen.
Yeah, since there's a chance. Hey, Daryl, how you doing?
Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Daryl. Hey, Daryl. What's up? Other things are animal death. There are some animals that die. No dogs. No dogs die.
No dogs.
There's
no
also
dogs in
some
the book even.
No.
Question mark?
No, I don't remember a dog.
I don't even remember them talking about a woofing dog anywhere.
Yeah.
Then there's some child abuse because earlier generations thought it was totally okay to do certain things that it's totally not okay to do. And am I missing anything?
I think that's it.
Did I get it?
You mentioned animal death, right?
Yes.
I mentioned animal death. Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Animal death, a little bit of racism.
Religious trauma.
The religious trauma.
Yep.
The whooping.
Yep.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Well,
now,
with
that being said, of course, Emma.
Yeah.
I have a very important question for you. Emma, on a scale of 1 to 10 books, how scary is this book?
Good question. Thank you.
Like, if it was... I should compare it to... If I had been thinking ahead, I would have compared it to the scariest book we've ever read versus the least scary book.
Yeah.
But, we'll go for a 1 to 10 for now until I remember to actually write those other books down.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, as we've kind of had in the past, we've read a couple of gothic horror books, but I think gothic horror is much more about like a vibe than trying to be downright like terribly scary. There are a couple things in here that are just like, that are very interesting, but I don't know that I would describe any of them as like crazy scary, and the book doesn't go in like grotesque detail to try to like really like churn your stomach reading it or anything. So this isn't the scariest thing. If you're new to horror books, I'd say this is probably a good place to start off.
I would say so too.
But it's really fun. The fact that it's not like outright scary, I don't think is a detriment. But for now, I'm gonna give it like a 2 out of 10 books.
That's fair.
I think that's fair too.
Yeah.
I think there's like a couple of moments where it's like it's a thinker and you could probably bump it up a little, but like
overall,
yeah, absolutely. But now that is out of the way, we can move to spoil territory. So if you want to read this book, you don't want to hear about our spoilery opinions because you haven't read it yet, then skip on by. We won't hold it against you. Go read the book, come back, and listen to what we have to say. But starting off, I'm going to do a quick spoilery summary. Obviously, I can't hit every single detail that's in the book, but I'll do what I can.
I was going to say, you sure can try.
I sure can try. So, Stella is brought to this cove in Tennessee where the U.S. government is in the beginning of the process of trying to turn this cove into a national park and move like everybody out of this area so that it can be like all natural. So it's very much like backcountry, like kind of secluded area, and Stella is brought by her dad to stay with her maternal grandmother, Maudie, who is this very like stern older woman, very like serious, and doesn't take any shit. This whole period is a bit of an adjustment, but one day Stella kind of wanders into this cave system and comes across the Ghost Daddy. The Ghost Daddy is it's like, think of it as like a white circle with no eyes or a mouth, and then a shit ton of arms kind of coming out of it.
Yep.
That's about as
That's
good of a
about it.
description as we get.
I
But
kind of imagined more of like a centipede thing as the book went on and the descriptions got like detailed in different ways. I'm like,
yeah,
maybe it's like this, but who knows?
The one
It's
thing that's consistent is the smooth, like, oblong torso and like rounded head and the tons of arms.
mhm.
Though
yeah,
that's like consistently described. Everything else you get more or less detailed. Um, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. So she sees this creature, is a little bit spooked by it, but is largely calm around it. And then Maddie discovers that she made it into this cave, saw this thing, and pulls her out. And from there, the younger side of the story, where Stella is younger, is kind of about her discovering what this god in the mountains is and what it has to do with her family, and just kind of discovering this religion that her family has concocted around this god in the mountains. Um, so she has a Uncle Hendrik who acts as kind of like the head of the church, and she learns that all the women in her family are called Revelators, and they have a special connection to the god where they go into this cave, and the god kind of uses these tendrils to pierce into the palm of their hands, and then he fills the Revelator with their like thoughts, their feelings, all of these things. Um, then the Revelator is pulled out of the cave by an older Revelator. In this case, it's her grandmother Maudie. And over the next like couple days, um, the Revelator, Stella in this case, is kind of filled with the god's thoughts and starts like prophesying, basically, saying and speaking in like dense, very metaphorical language to try to portray the god's thoughts and feelings and plans. And then Uncle Hendrik will write all of this down. And then he'll try later on to write commentary and decipher what was being said. And that's how this kind of familial religion goes. Is it's been going for a few generations now. Um, the women will kind of speak these prophecies, the men will write them down, and will keep writing them down until the woman dies, and then that book is closed, and it's like the book of Esther or the book of Selene and things like that. They comprise books of the prophecies that that woman beheld.
Mhm.
So Stella is allowed to read certain books, but she's not allowed to read all of the books because they think it might affect the prophecies that she gives. And so she gets frustrated by this and starts digging more and more, and starts sneaking off to see kind of the god more and more on her own without any supervision, and kind of gets in really deep. And then she finds out as she gets older, and this is skipping across a lot of side plots and side characters that are also important, but I imagine we'll bring those up and kind of
Mhm.
put those in context as we talk. But she learns that um about when she's like 14 or 15, she learns that all of the women in her family are born of the god. And basically, what the god does is inserts human embryos from the Revelators into pigs. And the pigs give birth to humans. And most of the time, a lot of the time, they die. But every once in a while, one will live, and then that's to be the next Revelator. So Stella was like this, and all of the women in her family were like this. And when she learns this, um, she decides that she's done with the god. She wants the god to die and wants this religion to die. And then we have like the older thing. She learned this, by the way, because a new Revelator was born, and she kind of saw what happened, and so she swore that she wouldn't let that Revelator kind of like talk to the god or do anything, and that she would make sure that she was the last Revelator. So as an adult, she moved out of the cove to kind of a nearby town. She became a bootlegger, and she receives news that her grandma Maudie passed away, and now this next Revelator that Maudie was looking after is kind of alone. And so traditionally, she would be the one to take care of her. And like rumor around the cove is that it's her daughter anyway, with basically the Baptist preacher's son who died because he saw the god and then ran away and crashed his car and died. But so the whole cove thinks that this kid is hers. And so she goes back to try to like connect with this girl, see what's going on, and also just settle business and make sure this girl is taken care of. When she gets back, she notices that Maudie has this these pierce marks in her chest that tells her that the god of the mountain killed Maudie, and she has no idea why. It's this big point of mystery throughout the book. And as she's kind of interacting with family and interacting with this religion again, Uncle Hendrik wants to take Sunny, the young girl, into his care, obviously so that he has control over the next Revelator. But Stella is much older now and sees how she was manipulated as a kid, so she's trying to protect Sunny as much as possible. But Sunny's kind of already been indoctrinated into this religion. And so she's fighting against Stella. She wants to go with Uncle Hendrik. She wants to help, all of these things. Eventually, Stella's like, okay, you can have Sunny. You can take her with you and care for her. But she's not allowed to go into the cave until she's 12, which is like tradition in their family. And when she does go, like, Stella has to okay it, and Stella has to be there. And the intention was that she was going to kill the god before that happened, and she wasn't going to let Stella go in there. So Hendrik agrees, and him and this new religion of people outside of the family that he started are kind of like excited about it, and she's like, okay, whatever, weird. And she goes off, and she realizes that Hendrik is actually not planning on taking her back home and caring for him. He's going to sneak her into the cave. So she tries to stop it. She gets arrested, and she eventually gets bailed out by some friends and a lawyer. And she's able to go just in time as Hendrik has like this film crew and his whole religion, and they're getting Sunny to go into the hole. And I skipped over a part, but it's fine.
It's okay.
It's okay.
They're getting ready. Stella, while interacting with Sunny, learned that Sunny has basically these tendrils that come from the god that she can like summon out of the palm of her hand, and has killed a few things with it, and in fact killed Maudie as well. And then she got arrested, and Sunny went back to Uncle Hendrik. So Sunny's trying to stop the ceremony, or Stella's trying to stop the ceremony, and Sunny says, you've got this all wrong. I'm the one that wants to do this, and I'm the one that's told Uncle Hendrik and everybody that I want to do this and that this is what we're doing. And her plan is she thinks that she's like the chosen one, and she can control the god and get the god to move, so that they can get the god to a safe place away from the American government, who is trying to take over this land. Sunny goes down into the cave. Stella gets into a big fight with everybody there and kills a bunch of them, revealing that she also can use these tendrils from her palm, but she doesn't have as much control over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes down into the cave, finds Sunny communing with the god, disrupts their connection, and in doing so kills the god, and then takes Sunny and runs the fuck away. The book kind of ends with her sleeping with Sunny in bed and just kind of taking care of her while hanging with some family friends. And when she wakes up and starts talking to Sunny again after Sunny finally wakes up, it is heavily hinted that the god and Sunny have become one, and that's where the book ends. So
I would like to clarify one point.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
Stella does kill the pastor's son.
Link.
Yeah, she does kill him.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot.
With the tendrils.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but yeah, I love the last. Have a sec. I love the last line of this book so much.
Me too.
Because it's a really good like.
We talked about this earlier too.
Oh shoot, skipped it already. I just I love how, it opens the scene like it's just this last section of the book, and it opens with Sunny just humming, which is the only thing that the only noise that the god was ever able to make was just like this humming sound.
yeah.
So as soon
like
as that happened,
vibration.
as soon as that happened, I'm like, I knew it. I'm so excited about this. And we get to the end of the couple of paragraphs, and Sunny says, "We forgive you," and Stella's confused at that. She's like, "What do you mean?" And says, "Sunny." And Sunny responds, "Yes and no." She leaned closer to Stella's ear and whispered, "Can you tell us, or can we tell you a secret?" I love that. It's
I love it.
It's a very good ending. I'm glad it wasn't any more explicit than it was, because I think that would have made it a bad ending to the story. I like how this one ends, and it's just like, and we're done.
I was telling Noah this. I love how excited Sunny, as like Ghost Daddy and Sunny combined, is to tell Stella. Like, they totally think that she's going to be excited about this.
Yeah.
They both felt very connected to Stella by the end of the book, as much as they had their disagreements with her. And I think that they genuinely like love her and want her to be excited with them about the fact that this worked.
Yeah.
And that makes it like even more heartbreaking, but also I kind of love it.
Yeah.
I like,
because then it's like this horrifying moment for Stella of like, oh fuck, I didn't actually stop this. And the whole point of the religion was that they prophesied that the god was going to come out of the mountain and reveal himself to the world, and at that time all of their followers would get new bodies that are ever blooming, as it's described, and they'd be eternally youthful. And I think that was a misinterpretation. It was more the god would have a body ever blooming because he would like reincarnate into younger bodies over and over and over again via the Revelators. And was just trying to get like that first one down of getting it correct so that it can put their entire essence into one body.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's this kind of terrifying moment where Stella realizes, oh great, the church's prophecy is fulfilled, and now we've got this little
god baby.
God baby that who knows what happens next.
I would like to think that Stella would not want to immediately get rid of this thing. I think like there's the potential that now that it's inhabiting like a body, it could learn to, it's already figuring out how to talk and stuff. there's the potential that this could be a fairly normal like creature now that it's
A
like
fairly normal god. No big deal.
well, but the thing is, right? Like he's not a god. He's just something that was living underground that people foisted the identity of a god onto and misinterpreted everything that he said. Um and functionally he just wanted to exist.
I did love there's a point in the book where Hendrik pulls out, or not, when Stella pulls out her memories of the visions she was receiving that she wasn't telling to Hendrik. And he
Mm-hmm.
was so offended. He's like, "How could you possibly write these down appropriately without me interpreting them for you on the side?" And it's like, well, Hendrik, a lot of your interpretations are wrong.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say all of them, if not most.
There's a lot of good stuff going on in that, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I love kind of the bullshit structure of this religion.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Where Stella throughout the book kind of complains about why do we need the men like interpreting these books for us when we're the ones receiving the visions and understand them the most directly.
Mhm.
And the answer is always just like, that's just how we've been doing it, and that's the tradition, and that's the way we must keep doing it.
And this
And
tradition is only like 3 or 4 generations old, so
yeah,
like
it hasn't been around long. And Hendrik is just a big old piss baby. I think religion in many contexts, including the American Christian context, tries to make you feel special.
Mhm.
And because this religion and this like higher god or whatever is making you special, people get these grandiose ideas into what their like purpose in the world is. Um like we you'll see constantly pastors being like, "Oh, the end times are coming, like December 21st, 2023." And then that date passes and they're like, "Oh no, God told me the wrong date. I calculated it wrong. My bad. It's actually this day." And they're filled with so much bullshit thinking like, "Oh, clearly I'm the one that was chosen to announce the end times. Like I'm like this incredibly important like biblical figure." When like, no, fuck you. And
Mhm.
Hendrik is like the same way in that he's filled with this grandiose idea of like he's gonna be the one that is there, the John the Baptist, for this like new god that comes into the world, which
He
he
was
didn't think it
so
was a new
ready.
god. He thought it was a fourth aspect of the Trinity.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I
Um
did love that. I absolutely love how because it is like an American like 1930s thing and there is like this small Baptist church in this community, like Hendrik and other people in that community have woven this new religion into Christianity, and the way that other
mhm.
Christians in that society react to that is really interesting because some of
Yeah.
them are pretty gung ho about it, and others are like, "Yeah, you are literally not going to heaven anymore." Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just like the whole structure of him feeling self-important and all of this stuff leading to this craziness where he's trying to wrest total control of this situation, um from like Stella and Maddie, is just wild. But also historically in the Christian church, every time there was a new denomination or really kind of anything, women were always kind of like some of the early pioneers and leaders and the ones who spread the word and everything. And then as the religion grew bigger, um, the men would just kind of take control of it, so that it would be more acceptable in society. And it just kind of like this book reminds me of that, and that like Stella's totally right. The women are the ones who are leading this thing, and the men are just trying to find some place to have some bit of power or control, where they can just kind of piss all over it. And
they're completely not content being second fiddle. Like, that's the
yeah,
thing, is like every single man involved in this either is like annoyed that they aren't the focus or they just leave,
Mm-hmm.
you
yeah,
know?
I'm a fan of like Paul at the end of it, who's the guy that people give the money to. He's like the treasurer, it seems. And
of
he's
this
sunk a
new
lot of
religion with Hendrik.
yeah, of the
Yeah,
Georgians. And I
the
love that
Georgians.
personally. Every time Hendrick's congregation gets brought up, it's like, oh yeah, the Georgians are here.
No
Yeah,
one's
But
happy about it.
um but I really I like Paul because he comes in and he's like, no, I'm not doing what you say anymore, Hendrick. I've put too much money into this to not be part of it immediately.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Um
I want to be one of the first men to see the god.
it's like, cool, you'll have fun for the 30 seconds that it lasts,
Yeah.
before you're fucking dead.
Hmm.
Um I would like to talk really quick about the uh relationship I felt to Stella as someone who has like been in the situation of kind of being the precocious outcast child in especially female child in a Baptist church, because went to a very sexist Baptist church growing up. Um
Hmm.
and I feel like I related very heavily to Stella, both in when she's younger and she's asking these questions and she's being shut down. And eventually, when they don't have the answers, they tell her that what's wrong is her, like something's wrong with her. And that's where these questions are coming from. And both that and then when she returns to the community and the condescending way with which this community that she wanted to like find belonging in, and she even liked someone who was a part of that community and was willing to give it a shot for him. And his parents are such dicks to her in such a like underhanded way. I think it really captured the subtlety of like how they make you feel. Like, again, you can't call them out in any meaningful way because they haven't done anything wrong, but it's all in the way that they say it and the way that they portray you through their words. And I really thought that this book captured that with Stella specifically. Whether or not Sunny was her kid didn't really matter. What mattered was the implication, and that she had never, even as a child, like fit in because she just thought too much. I
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed reading that.
Yeah. They did so well. Daryl, you did a great job
Thanks, Daryl.
conveying
Thanks, Daryl.
like religion and the subtle undercuttings of religion um towards women especially, but I feel like the pipeline of indoctrination is shown really well as well.
Hmm.
Um both in Stella kind of sees it and understands it a lot better and while viewing the Christian church as a kid, but then as an adult she understands a lot more how it was done to her within her like
Yes.
familial religion.
Yes.
And I think getting both of those perspectives and seeing it laid out how it was is super interesting and really
Hmm.
well done.
Really well done. I love seeing Stella because I love Stella as a character. She's
She's
a
great.
she's a sharp cookie and very like critical. Um and I love how like her cynicism is not like so much to the extent that she's not happy with anything or that she doesn't admit that, like, when she returns and you can feel kind of this begrudging respect for Maudie from her, and you start to know what Maudie went through and what Maudie knows, like, you kind of like get where Stella's coming from. And I feel that especially with, like, the religion, how like she was, again, you like you said, so critical towards the Christian church as a kid, and now as an adult she's like, oh no, but it's both.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like go back on her thoughts about the Christian church just because she now knows that, like, her familiar religion was batshit insane. Now she's full up against both of them. I appreciate her for that.
Yeah, we love a consistent queen.
We do. We
Hmm.
stan.
Um, I would like to talk about Ghost Daddy
Let's talk about Ghost
and
Daddy.
why he's named Ghost
I
Daddy.
am so excited for y'all's theories because I don't really have any.
Right,
I
so
only really have one theory.
I was way too willing to just accept it.
And Noah, since you apparently have more than one, I would like to go first. Oh,
I
you
only
don't?
have one as well.
You guys are so full
I'm
of
gonna
shit.
be so like it's gonna be so funny if we have the same theory.
I
Daryl, you can
bet we
let us
do.
know if we're correct later.
Daryl, tell them they're
Daryl,
wrong, even if they're right.
Daryl, just let us know, Daryl. Noah, you go ahead and share.
So my theory, you know, the interactions with Ghost Daddy started in the 1800s.
Okay.
My thought was when the first connection was made, the being has a very overwhelming presence. If you mix that in with a little bit of Christianity, you get a big fatherhood figure, a big father presence, and it's kind of like ghostly. So that's where I got Ghost Daddy from.
Okay.
I also have another one.
You said you only had one theory.
I just remembered the other one, so it's your turn now.
Okay.
My second theory might be like yours.
Maybe. My theory is that for the Revelators, they talk about the experience of the god kind of putting all this information in them as being like filled up with the god. It's almost, I imagine it as like being filled up with this liquid. And it changes like their vision, it changes everything. And then over time, they like speak the god into the world. And that's what Hendrik and whoever else is there for, to write down what they say and to try to interpret it while they're in kind of this like daze and they're saying all these things. Hendrik said that like it's not necessarily a one-to-one translation because the god doesn't speak like human language, so you're putting the god's language into human words. Yeah. So my idea is that the Ghost Daddy named himself Ghost Daddy, but that's not how it actually is. Instead, that's how it kind of came out in like the human tongue, is Ghost Daddy was probably the closest descriptor that could be said for a name. As it was like coming out of the Revelator's mouth.
He's like trying to say dying father or some shit, and everyone's like, Ghost Daddy.
Ghost Daddy.
All right, so I have my second theory. My second theory. Okay. That's since the name was never written down intentionally, that's not its name at all, and that's just what Maudie called it.
And young Stella just ran away with it.
Young Stella's like, oh, what's the forbidden name? And Maudie's just like, please, Ghost Daddy, please talk to me. And she's like, oh, fuck, I learned the name.
Ghost Daddy, I got it.
It's Ghost Daddy. And then Ghost Daddy
and Maudie's
as Sunny.
Too full of her own shit to like correct her later when she's like, well, Ghost Daddy. And Maudie's just like, okay.
Okay.
That's my name, but okay.
Ghost Daddy as Sunny is just like, wait, what have you been calling me? That's not it at all.
It's Steven.
Steven Gregory. Daryl's brother, you may know me.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, my thought was that it was a name that the people, Ghost Daddy was the name that the humans gave it, specifically the Revelators, since he's ghostly and he is also their father.
Yeah. Maudie had said that it was known by other names just to the Revelators, and that they were kind of like secret names. And so, could be.
Honestly, hearing that just makes it like I had forgotten. But that really does feel like, in my mind, it lends a lot of strength to Ghost Daddy was just Maudie's name for him.
To be fair, it does seem like a name a child would give to something potentially. Mm-hmm. And being that like the Revelators kind of encounter the god in the mountains as 12-year-olds traditionally, I could see like a little girl being like, I'm gonna call you Ghost Daddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of like how in D&D, when you give your party like a new terrifying NPC and they're like, my name is Omega Fool, and they're like, okay, we're gonna call you Omega Fool.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave my party a horse, and they've named him Buster Nutson.
See, exactly.
I always
like
forget
that.
about that. Good old Buster Nutson. It's spelled funny, so it's not
It is also
technically
spelled
it's
funny.
not technically Buster Nutson. It's Buster NUHTS.
Yeah, Buster Newtson, if you will.
Buster Newtson.
Anyway, enough about Buster.
Yeah.
On the subject of Ghost Daddy, something that I enjoyed about like his like characterization is that, again, because like a lot of his intent has been warped by a very like by first the Revelators, who like obviously aren't able to communicate exactly what he's saying, and then that's taken and interpreted further by Hendrik, who has the worst motivation possible. I think Ghost Daddy isn't as like, obviously I don't think he's as manipulative as some people make him out to be. I think Stella's interpretation of his intent has been very affected by the humans around her and how they made her feel. I think that Ghost Daddy himself is closer to, not, I'm not going to say an animal because he's much more powerful than like humans and he clearly has his own thing going on, but I don't think it's as complicated as they're making it out to be. I really think he just wants to survive, and he's found a group of beings that are willing to help him do that, and so he's doing his best to like make that work with them, you know?
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't think he's necessarily evil. I don't think he's necessarily just misunderstood. I think it's like trying to push morality onto like dolphins and otters and stuff. It's like they don't necessarily know that this is immoral. They're just doing what they got to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, Stella talked about how, I think one of the times she was talking to Stella or Sunny, she was like, Hendrik and the religion has their own plans and their own things that they want to do, and they don't actually care about you. And the God has its own plans and things that it wants to do, and it doesn't actually care about you. And I think to an extent that's true. Like, the God is just trying to survive and find something it can put its entire essence to in order to continue on, which is its own goal. And so therefore it doesn't actually really care about the like Revelators, insofar as like it's just trying to like use them as a what's the word? I keep
Vessel?
thinking Avatar, like like the blue people
Yeah,
Avatar.
yeah.
But I know that's not a good
Avatar
term,
works.
Avatar, I was thinking Vessel was what was my
Vessel,
thought.
yeah. It's just seeing these girls as like vessels. And I mean that sucks for the girls, but I don't put any fault on the God necessarily.
Because I feel like the God does care,
doing.
right? The God just doesn't know what caring is good and what caring is bad. But there's no part of me that thinks that the God doesn't care.
There's that scene, and it's like, well, in what way does he care? Because does he just care about them as, I need to protect this because it's my one chance at living? Or does he actually have some kind of warped affection for them? Because there's that scene where he comes to Stella and they just kind of sit with each other for a while and they don't commune or anything. And I thought that was very interesting. And then again, I come back to the last line in the book where they're very excited to tell Stella.
Yeah, I think it's a warped affection thing where it's like, had no concept of the damage that is being done or could be done with the action happening, but cares very much for them outside of the potential vessel thing. Because I would go out on a limb and say that Ghost Daddy realized pretty early on who is and isn't a suitable, like, full vessel, but also the better blueprint he gets of people when he tries to make another pig baby, the more clean the new vessel is going to be for, like, his needs and stuff, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that.
It's really interesting overall. It's very complex and I enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
So I'm gonna change topics real quick. Daryl, I just want to Daryl. Hey, Daryl.
Hi, Daryl.
What's up, Daryl?
I just want to thank you for not making this a coming of age puberty book. Because that was the only thing I was worried about going into this. As soon as Nina read the front cover and she's like, "Oh no, it opens up with Stella at 9 years old." And I was just like, "Oh no, I really hope that this isn't another Stephen King thing."
Yeah,
And it wasn't.
every time with
And
that shit.
I was really pleased to not see a Stephen King going on. So thank you,
When
Daryl.
as we were going through the book and the adult Stella storyline starts hinting that like people think Sunny is her kid, and she keeps being like Lunk isn't the father, which Lunk is the son of the Baptist preacher. The two of them kind of had a thing-ish while they were growing up. But they thought Lunk and her had a kid, and that is Sunny. And then Sunny kind of like abandoned the kid. As she kept saying like, Sunny's not mine, Lunk's not the father, and then it kept kind of being hinted stronger and stronger of people being like, listen, we know Sunny's yours. And she kind of changed it to like, Lunk's not the father. I was like, are we gonna get a flashback where the god like impregnates a kid? I was like, please don't give me that.
I was so distressed by that implication when it like you like right where you said where I like had that same stress. And I was like, I was talking about like reading dystopian novels and reading other writers' horror. That is a direction with another author, I could totally see things going because I've seen it happen before where it's like for shock value for you got comfortable with this character you like, I'm going to do something terrible to them. I was absolutely like on the edge of my seat in a bad way, not in a good way, that was going to be where we were going with things.
Yeah,
I was a bit anxious.
I read books, no thoughts, head empty, much like I do many things in life. So I never once thought of that. I only went for the basest of base level concerns, and as soon as Nina had told me that was not the case, I'm like, oh, cool. And I read the book with not a single thought in my mind.
Nice. That's good.
Good for you.
When they started heavily implying like the pigs are really important, like we have to like do all this stuff for the pigs, we've got to take care of the pigs and everything. I don't remember at what point it clicked, but
it didn't click to the reveal for me. I was
really?
Yeah, it clicked
as
a little bit.
She said to have that she had to get another pig, and Maudie was like, "I don't want to get another," and she's like, "Well, sucks to suck. You need another pig." That's when I picked up on it. I was
the god wants to coom inside the pig.
No.
Oh my god. Speaking of the pigs though, can we talk about Abby for a second? That poor bastard.
Yeah, I love that boy. So
love that boy.
Can you, because I didn't really talk about Abby in my synopsis, can you say who Abby is?
Yes, Abby is a friend of the family.
Absalom Whit.
He lives up in his own little house on a hill. He's a hunter and a moonshiner, and he kind of helps the family out with what he can, and he is a friend to both Stella and Sunny as their kids trying to figure out all this shit. He's kind of the good cop in the good cop, bad cop, Maudie Abby situation.
And he's a certified good boy.
He's a certified good boy. We love Abby in this house. He's the one who teaches Stella how to moonshine and how to swear, and she really needed both of those skills in her life, I think. They really complete who she is as a person. But he has to help with the pig stuff, and I felt really bad for him every time that happened because it clearly put him off of things that he liked to do very much, because it's such a disgusting situation to be in. But
it was hinted
at. Very helpful.
Yeah, it was hinted at throughout the book that Abby perhaps knew more than what he was letting on, but never like directly confirmed. Do you think that Abby actually knew like these girls were coming from the pigs? And like,
I think so.
What extent do you think Abby was involved?
I think he helped birth the kids a few times because Maudie couldn't do it by herself, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I think he was involved in a lot of that process.
But I mean, for Stella, she had Maddie had Lena, and then for Lena, I imagine whoever was it. Who was before Maddie?
Esther.
Esther
disappeared pretty quick though.
Yeah, that's true.
And besides, it's not like someone was only around for the good times. There were plenty of bad time babies too.
Yeah, there was that whole like scene where we get the whole like Cavern of Corpses deal, which is fun.
I love that.
I do love
I
that.
love that. All the little dead like partial partial monster babies. That was great.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
People with a pig foot? No, thank you.
No, thanks. Ghost Daddy said nope.
Oh, Ghost Daddy said oops.
But yeah, no. I think Abby has seen a couple of the babies that did not go well.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Think that's probably part of why he takes the girls under his wing, is because he knows that like
it's only so long before they get exposed to the big badness of the world.
Yeah. And then God fucking knows Maddie's not going to do anything about it. So.
I mean, she didn't even prepare Stella for her first communion.
I mean,
Hendrik was so pissed about that, and I loved it. He's just like, you didn't even tell her what to do, and she's just sitting there like,
Yeah.
She's like, Maddie, I don't give a shit. And Hendrik's like, you're in charge of the religion.
You could afford to give a shit.
Yeah. Maddie was a time.
Maddie's a character. I obviously have come to accept her a little more for who she is. But what a bitch.
Yeah.
like complimentary.
Absolutely.
But holy crap. She was something else. I do love getting to see that she, like, in her own way, did try to prepare Stella for what was going to happen. But it's one of those things where, like, not to get back on the generational trauma horse, but, like, how is someone as emotionally damaged and in the situation of Maddie or Stella, how are they supposed to be expected to have the emotional and mental capacity to deal with all of this shit and deal with bringing up the next person in a way that's going to be like constructive and helpful? Because they're like scarred and damaged by the shit that they had to see at that age too. So it's like a whole mess.
Plus, Maddie had to watch Lena die.
Mm-hmm.
And then is also supposed to help this other, technically they're all sisters, so watch this other younger sister go through the same thing. And I think Maddie had I think there were times where it was hinted Maddie had a very similar mindset as Stella did, where she was very against all of this. And but she's a lot more old school and is like, we have to like keep doing this like family bullshit. And she kept going along with it, but there was still like a huge part of her that she was like, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want this to happen. Like,
and the best
Stella
way to deal with that is
in the fucking chapel.
her solution is, I will be not emotionally attached to this child at all. And that went super well for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stella and Sunny both stopped going into the chapel challenge.
I don't know that Sunny ever really got into the chapel.
Isn't that where we first see her? Is in the chapel window?
Oh, well, yeah, but like, I meant like in the chapel.
Well, yeah, because Maddie had boarded it up, but it's like pretty clear.
I mean, Sunny got there at the end.
And
I think there's potentially evidence that Sunny had interacted with the god before.
I definitely think she interacted. I just assumed that it was the god coming out to visit, like he had done a couple of times when Stella was around.
Yeah. Because one clue, we're going to go into clues. One clue is that, so when you commune with a god, he puts these tendrils in your hand and it leaves like a scar, basically. And that was one of the first things Stella checked to see if Sunny had been in the cave yet, was she checked her hands and there were no scars. But then later on, we saw that Sunny can summon these tendrils from her hands and it doesn't leave a scar. And so it's potential she could have communed with the god and it just didn't leave a scar. But also, we know Maudie didn't tell Sunny fuck all. And Hendrik and them don't really actually know anything.
I love
but
that.
she seemed awfully convinced she could do something to move the god. So I think some sort of interaction between her and the god has happened. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I'm curious, I could be completely off base here, but so many things are like, and this is another reason why I want to reread it. So many things are recontextualized after the fact. I'm not even sure if the tendrils from the god leave scars or if those are just the the place where the tendrils usually come out of the girls. Down to the point where I'm not even sure that the god puts out the tendrils or if it's the girls who are putting out the tendrils to connect with him. And they're like avatar hairstyle, like connecting like tendrils instead of it actually him connecting tendrils into their hands.
Maybe.
So that was a thought that I have, but that's another one that I want to reread the book to clarify some things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Daryl, if you wanna let us know, please
Daryl, please
just let us know.
Don't worry about it.
You can
we could have totally
DM
missed
Nina
something.
and clarify it for her.
Don't do that. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm like worried that I like missed because I was like, I don't understand that, and like totally just like put it out of my head without remembering to like put it aside to remember later if I ever got context. So, I want to talk about a completely incidental character though, really, really quick, before we wrap up or anything. I want to talk about, what's her name? Victoria or Violet?
It's Victoria.
Is it?
Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria's boyfriend, fiance.
Or no, was it Veronica?
Veronica! There it is.
Oh my gosh, we're terrible.
She's the worst.
Sorry, Daryl.
Yeah, sorry, Daryl. I want to talk about her fiance.
Ricky.
The asshole.
From
Ricky,
the Navy. He's so fine.
From the Navy.
He blow his elbow out.
I love Ricky as an asshole character. I really, really love specifically the scene. This is one of my favorite Stella moments. I love Stella so much. To go off topic for just a sec, I love when the moonshine's fucking ruined and she's like, who did this? And it's because they got the wrong charcoal and she loses her mind. I love her for that. And then I love when she introduces her partner to Ricky, and Ricky just doesn't shake his hand. And I remember Stella's inner monologue being like, an asshole. And I loved her for that. That's like one of my favorite Stella lines.
It's very good.
I love that Ricky was he was an asshole, but also he was just a fucking punching bag. He's like that character that tries to be really intimidating and stuff, and they're like, oh, he's from the fucking Navy. Like, he's hard, don't mess with Ricky. But then, like, he just gets fucked all the time.
Yeah, and then Alphonse, who was in the army, he's like, Navy.
Yeah.
Classy. I love Alphonse. I love all of the characters, like genuinely, even the ones that like are shitty, like Hendrik. I'm like, I love the role that they play in the story.
Yeah, I hated Veronica, but I loved the realization of Stella of like, oh fuck,
Veronica's been shitty the whole time.
This whole time, like, of course she has. I thought that was really good.
Yes.
I love Veronica being like, no, you don't understand. I'm definitely friends with you. It's
We're
just,
besties.
I gotta tell my dad stuff.
I gotta tell my daddy.
Another good Christian, like, homeschool in circle thing where you literally can't tell anyone anything because it will get back to your parents sooner or later.
Yeah. All right. Well, Noah, so obviously, what is your song pick for this book? Because, like, obviously you, for each book we read, you have, like, a song that you feel like fits the vibe of the book. So, like, what song were you thinking fits the vibe of this book? Like, what just kept coming up for you?
So,
I've pulled up, okay, we can edit this out. I've pulled up my books playlist because there's enough overlap that I
think. Yeah, we can just cut out this part where we're trying to come up with something.
Honestly, and this is probably me just like kind of stereotyping the area, but I was thinking of Woody Guthrie a lot. You familiar?
No, not at all.
Woody Guthrie is like an old school folk musician, very anti-fascist, pro-union, communist dude. Who?
Nice, we love it.
Yeah, he's got a lot of fun music though. Super. I hesitate to call him super popular. Spotify has him listed at 250,000 monthly listeners though, which is like I think, in my opinion, for like an old folk artist,
that's pretty
not
good.
bad. He's the guy that had the acoustic guitar that had "This Machine Kills Fascists" on it, or not machine. Oh yeah, machine. Yeah, "This Machine Kills Fascists." That's him.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
So yeah, just in general, me stereotyping the South. I'm like, oh yeah, some like folksy bluegrassy stuff, and I was thinking of Woody Guthrie.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good pick, I think.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Was there any song in particular?
One stood out to me literally just by title alone. It's called "My Daddy" (parentheses) flies a ship in the sky end parentheses.
Oh yeah,
and it's literally just because Ghost Daddy and the word daddy is there. It's a bad connection. Like I'm not up to my usual level on this one. But Nina, stop laughing for the love of God. It's so hard to keep it together.
I can't.
Emma, is this the part where we say fits. April Fools or not?
What are you talking about?
Oh my God.
I mean, it's April 1st, but we would never.
Yeah, no. Never. We're a very professional book podcast.
We would never, we wouldn't ever pull something over on our listeners.
Never.
April Fool's pranks are for personal Twitter accounts only, not for full podcasts.
Yeah.
And I stand by that.
Absolutely.
Daryl, don't worry. Everything we said about your book, we meant it.
Yes, we absolutely meant it. I promise.
Yes. Hundo P. Well, do you guys have anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think there's some
points of discussion.
Only some podcast stuff, actually. Not nothing else about the book.
Okay. Well, then let's move to outros and all that stuff and announcements.
Yes.
So, yeah, go for it.
I think the big announcement is that we're going to be taking the next month off. Just a bunch of personal stuff has come up, as I'm sure some of y'all may have noticed, with our slight hiccup in release a couple weeks back and stuff like that. It's just been getting harder to get everything out on time and stuff. So we're going to take a month and a step back. We're going to get back into the flow of things. I recently got a new job, which unfortunately has me working in the evenings a lot, which does interfere with our recording time frame. So we just got to reestablish like good times to do this, that, and the other thing, and we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But at the moment,
it's not you,
it's
us.
It is us.
Yeah.
It's literally not you, it's me.
So we'll be taking April off, but hopefully you'll hear from us again in May.
You will hear from us again.
We'll keep
this is a threat.
Posted.
Yeah, we'll make sure on in the Discord server, on the Twitter, we'll make sure to let everyone like know what's coming up next and things like that.
Yeah, we will keep you guys updated, and also we will continue to obviously interact with people because we love you guys.
I will not interact with anyone. I will haughtily ignore you all.
I will not. I can't shut up.
Either.
I cannot be stopped. Speaking of, if you want to hear me not shut up, you can find me at House Usher Rises on Twitter. If you want to read this book, if you potentially do read this book, Revalator, and you enjoy it, I would go so far as to say that you would probably like my book. I saw a lot of similarities in like the main characters and the way they behave, and I really enjoyed Stella. And if you enjoy Stella as a character, I think you might like Quincy. I think they'd be friends, personally. I think they'd be besties.
You hear that, Daryl?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, don't.
Daryl, if you're interested, you can check out Nina's book.
Oh my God, stop.
But on the subject of Daryl, hi Daryl.
Hi Daryl.
Hi Daryl.
We're gonna link his website in the show notes. You can visit. You can see all the books that the man's put out, including links of where to buy the books. Amazon, or if you're not up to Amazon, there's like 7 other options, which You really can't argue. You're spoiled for choice in how to pick up Daryl's good
you
books.
should pick up this book.
Yeah.
And if you want to pick up my book, there's a link on my other Twitter, Nina Wolverina, or you can message me on Discord or Twitter and ask for a copy if you don't want to support Amazon, and we can work something out. I promise. Only ebooks, but we can work something out.
Nice. I'm Emma, also known as Emma Panada. You can find me on my Twitch and Twitter at Emma Panada. On Twitter, I largely just shitpost and troll my friends, and on Twitch, I run various TTRPG games. And yeah, I'm also developing a TTRPG called All the Witches, and we're getting some stuff done on that, and it's really exciting. Recently, I posted some art that was done for All the Witches on Twitter, and it got a bunch of followers on that account. So we're doing a dice giveaway until April 15th. Well, April 14th, I think, is the last day, and then I'll probably draw April 15th. So if you want some custom dice made for you, maybe you have like a D&D character you want a dice set made for or something like that, go follow that account and like and retweet that tweet. It's pinned on that account. The account is twitter.com/ allthewitches_.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. Hell yeah. That's me, Noah.
I'm Noah. You can find me as Bubba Dabad, BUBBADABAD. Twitch, Twitter, and Insta. I don't usually say anything about my Twitch streams, but I'm pretty confident I'm still going to be playing Elden Ring for the next month and a half or more. So you can come watch me play Elden Ring for the foreseeable future.
Nice.
And I'm going to still be on the same boss, most likely.
Perfect.
Such is life.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to our horror book podcast. We'll keep you updated on what book we're going to cover next. But until May, we will see you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I'll do Justin.
Thank you, Nina.
Yeah, thanks.